Jeff will answer them. So without further ado, Jeff, it's all yours.
So I did the quintessential Zoom faux pas. Let me find the mute button, start talking before I unmuted myself. Thank you, Jez, specifically for allowing me this opportunity to talk about this topic. Diversity and inclusion is kind of near and dear to my heart. Before I get any further down in the presentation, I want to share that these views are mine and not that of the Federal Reserve. However, as a leader of the information security operation at the bank, I practice these views. So, and I found that it has served me well. So I've served as the information security officer for the last 5 years. Before that, I served as the information security manager for about a year or two. I've been with the bank for 20 years in December, and I've been in IT the entirety of my career at the bank. So I've been an individual contributor, I've been a leader in the organization at mid-level, and now a mid-level executive at the organization. And these are kind of the core tenets that I use in order to foster a diverse and inclusive culture or community. So a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in West Africa, Liberia. I was there for 12 years. So when I was 12, I was transplanted from the warm tropical continent of Africa to this beautiful state of Minnesota. So you can tell there was a huge change in not only the community, but the culture and the environment. And I had to adapt and adopt to this new environment with which I was living. And I grew up in Minnesota, went to school for my undergrad in North Dakota, so glutton for cold and continue misery in the tundra. Did my college stint there, and then came back to Minnesota to kind of set up residency. So I share that story because in all of that, I had to adapt to new cultures. I had to adapt to new environments, new communities. And in all of those changes and all of that change, where I learned and where I felt included were environments where diversity, inclusivity came as a natural aspect of the culture. So that has been kind of a guiding principle for me. So as we look for our talk today, fostering a secure culture, and the focus is going to be primarily around people, process, and technology. So with that, we'll get started. So on the agenda for today it is this. We'll talk a little bit about the cyber landscape, understanding what's at risk, leveraging culture to assure security. And again, think about my opening statements here about that culture being the bedrock, the foundation upon which folks, organizations, students, teachers can build a diverse and inclusive community. And then minimizing our risk exposure with the human factor. To me, the human power has been one of those missed opportunities in terms of assuring security, a secure posture for an organization and for schools as well. I mean, students are the first and last line of defense. Employees are the first and last line of defense. How are we engaging with them to assure our secure posture? All right, so with that, we can get started. So as we know, in March, most of our lives, if not all of our lives, changed drastically, right? So we had a number of things happening. We had COVID, we had a crash in the market, we had people going, working from home, doing that primarily, some for a short period of time. Folks that were working from home just ad hoc were now, permanently at home. We were working and assisting with teaching our kids at home to finish off the school year. The evolving cyber landscape included now an increase in phishing attacks directed toward employees and individuals, specifically around COVID, tax time, the upcoming election, the whole social unrest that continues to today. And then the work-life balance, that line became blurred, right? So now you were stuck at home working, what would amount to more than an 8-hour day. You no longer had the confines of the office place to kind of measure the 8 to 5 day. It seemed like the work day and personal life kind of blurred together. And then attacks became, more targeted around that whole atmosphere of working at home. We had the Zoom bombing, we had phishing, we had spear phishing. It evolved to vishing, which is phone phishing, and texting as well. So all of those things kind of accumulated into this this broader threat landscape for the country and for companies. 88% of companies encourage people to work from home or have made it mandatory to this point. Survey done by Cybersecurity Hub shows that 59% of people felt like they were more secure working in the office place than they were at home. 71% work from home said that there was an increase in cyber breach when folks started to work at home. So you can see that not only the human factor were being targeted, but organizations as well were being the target. Over 145% increase of malware attack over the same period of the first and second quarter of this year. So in order for the organization, in order for individuals to feel included, to feel a part of that organization, the culture has to match what's at risk, who has access to the organization's critical assets. So underlying all of that is understanding what's at risk for the organization. So we know that people are going to be the first and the last line of defense. We know that they are going to be the doers, the seers, the protectors of what the organization has, identified as, crown jewels, as I've called it out here. But do they feel a part of the organization? Do they feel a part of the objective of assuring the security for that critical asset? Now, folks are at home. They felt that they were more secure when they were in the office. Now they're at home. What are we doing to make sure that security, that sense of security, that sense of belonging, that sense of being included is extended out to the workplace? Because if we lose sight of that extension, therein lies the risk to the critical assets or the crown jewel, if you will. Where's that stuff located? Where are your big data that you hold so dear, that moves the bottom line? Where's the PII or the student information that we need to secure? Where's that located? Who has access to it? How is it protected? All of these things we have to take into consideration as we start to foster now this culture of diversity and inclusion, specifically inclusivity. Because, when we think about diversity, we can look across the room, we can look across the organization and see that we have people that don't look the same across the board. We may even dive a little bit deeper and find that we have people that may have a different thought process. They think differently. They have different religious beliefs. Those are all kind of the easy, low-hanging fruits of diversity, right? But when it comes to inclusivity, that's more, in my opinion, is that feeling of being included, that feeling of being a part of, either a part of the protection, the part of security assurance, a part of the objective, or a part of the initiative creation. Those are all aspects of inclusivity that I think is harder to measure, but critical as we look at diversity and inclusion, and specifically as we try to build a culture where we're trying to protect critical assets. So what does that look like? In my mind, culture looks like this, and this is written on my board. So as I think back to when we were in the bank, new hires to my team, we had a one-on-one, and we talked through this acronym. So I love acronyms, so that's why you see it here. And we went through bullet points here and talked about it and what my expectations are of the team and what I was expecting from that new hire, to gauge their current position, to gauge how they feel about these tenants, and to level set expectation for me. When I meet with my leadership group, so I have two managers that report up to me, we start our conversation based on these tenants. When we, as a team, start to build our objectives or HPIs for either the current year or the next year, we start with these tenants. So the idea of collaboration, the idea of understanding the unique abilities of the organization and the people entrusted to work within the organization, the idea of leadership, trust, understanding, respect, and empowerment are all part of the culture that we foster, that I try to foster, which then allows us to be inclusive of ideas and have a diverse makeup of individuals that work in the organization. In my opinion, inclusivity and culture will always bring in a diverse population, okay? So let me talk a little bit about each. So again, I love acronyms, and most of the things I see, my mind tends to see in acronyms. So for culture, which is to me the bedrock of this, of fostering a diverse and inclusive community, collaboration is key, right? So the more we can share ideas up, down, across, the better we are in terms of not only listening, but actually understanding what's happening. And you can see understanding is also a part of this culture. An example of collaboration is that I make sure that my leaders are available. And by availability, it means that if you're in your office and you don't have a meeting or have a sensitive conversation happening, the door's open and the lights are on. So folks feel that they can come in at any point and knock on the door and talk to you. Also, if we're traveling for an extended period of time, the expectation of my leaders is that we leave our doors open, our sensitive information are locked away, but it's another environment or another place for folks, for our employees to go, to relax, to have ad hoc meetings without having to schedule a conference room, and still be a part of our team. So in my view, collaboration is critical. Understanding the uniqueness of the organization and the unique characters um, and the unique characters that you have that build your team is also an important part, right? People are going to come at a problem from different angles. And as a leader, you have to be adaptive to their approach to that problem. We also have to understand broadly what the objective is and how and what the results need to be. How they get there is totally up to them, right? Within the guardrails of, honesty and ethics and all that, how you get to that end is your path. That, I think, lends itself to building trust and then forming respect, right? So if I trust that folks can get to the result and I empower them to get to that result, in that journey, we start to build respect for each other, right? So leaders, we have to build trust. It's not assumed. It's an ongoing effort. It's an opportunity for us to connect with our employees, connect with students. And it cannot be that you walk into a room because you're the leader, therefore everybody must trust and respect you. That notation or that idea falls far short of what an inclusive culture should look like. Also, from a leadership perspective, is knowing from which position you are best supported to lead the team. In some cases, it's going to be, I'm going to lead from the front and everybody follow. In some cases, it's I'm going to lead from the middle. In that, we have the stronger people up in the front, we have our stronger people in the back, and you are in the middle encouraging the folks that, or maybe interns or new employees to the organization or junior members to the organization. And then sometimes you're in the back and you have your leaders in your front, you have your coaches in the middle, and you're there to ensure that the team continues on that path. Those are things I think are and can build an inclusive community, and therefore building that inclusive culture. As I mentioned before, respect is earned. It's not given. In order to get it, you got to give it. So, that is a push and pull relationship that has to be fostered. It has to be nourished. Folks will come in, you may have a superstar come into the organization and demand respect from everyone else. It is upon the leader to step back and assure that that person understands that it's a team of a collective, not a team of an individual. I've had one analyst who is no longer with the bank became a superstar, and in that ascension, lost track of others around them, and started to belittle people, started to second guess decisions and stuff like that, and that became a challenge. And in that challenge, we worked to measure his response back to his colleagues, sometimes to our customers, and ultimately we had to part ways because it wasn't matching what we're trying to strive for an inclusive culture. and it didn't match the bank's mission and vision as well. And then lastly, to touch on is empowering employees. This is an aspect that I think as a leader need to look at how we encourage folks to do their best work without micromanaging them to do that work or imposing our work ability or work style on them to do that work. It goes back again to understanding what the overall mission and vision for the organization is. Knowing the end result can help and ensure that we're empowering users to find the best way possible to move forward. And this is both from a professional perspective and from a personal perspective. And the more that I've found that you can connect with folks personally to help them move their career or align their career on that journey, the more professionally vested they are to the organization as a whole. And to me, that's a win-win, right? I'm getting the best out of that employee. That employee is striving and achieving the best for themselves, and the organization is winning. In the end, both parties are. So why culture, and why is it important for a diverse and an inclusive environment? So to sum it up, trust and respect are earned. We can't overstate, we can't understate, we can't overlook that as an employee or employer, having a trust and a respective relationship is key. If we look at what we're experiencing now in the society with the societal unrest that's happening now, and the awakening of different races and systemic injustice and all of the repressive tenets that people felt, we have to understand that as leaders, as we broach those conversations with our employees, that it is paramount that we understand that trust and respect has to be at the foundation of that, right? So I can't just walk into a room and expect everybody to listen to what I have to say and take that as the gospel and move forward with that. Especially in times like these, we have to sit back and encourage employees, encourage students to talk about what is bothering them. And in that conversation, we begin to build trust. How we react to those conversations is where respect is earned. And that reaction has to be from a place of sincerity and a place of empathy. So we want to make sure that people understand that what we're trying to do is empower them. What we're trying to do is try to move them forward. So the second part of this is empowering staff to think independently, while us as leaders are assuring a collaborative environment while understanding the uniqueness of the team. That is the expectation of a leader, in my opinion. So what does that mean? When we think about where we are today, I need to empower my employees to look at their current situation, regardless of where they sit in the organization. Your current situation is the environment with which you have to operate. So if it's a single mom working at home, if it's a family working at home with a child in school, with a child in preschool, I have to empower them respectfully to do what's best for their families first, and understand that the end game is that of the objective for the organization. So as I mentioned earlier, when we set out our objectives for the year and the year coming up, that's done from the bottom up. That's done collaboratively. So everyone has a say in how those objectives are formed. Everyone has a say in when the milestones are derived and when the ultimate results are expected. So as they move through the course of the year, they are measuring themselves, they are monitoring those dates, not derived solely from me, but derived by the group. So therein, my empowerment is simply to make sure that they have an environment within which they can be successful. So if that means, mom has to work from 12 to 5 and then maybe from 7 to 8, that's fine, as long as the objectives are being met. If that means dad has to work from 6 to 9, and then jump back on again from 3 to 6, that's fine, as long as the objectives are being met. That's empowering the staff to be successful. The collaboration and understanding the uniqueness of the team is that lever, right, that we have to pull as leaders, especially in times like this. We have to have an open channel of collaboration, that if I need something, I have to reach out. If they need something, they can reach out. We have to ensure that the channels are open laterally and up and down. Leaders have to understand not only what's happening in the organization, but I found that I have to keep tabs on what's happening in the community. I have several employees, not several, I had 2 employees that live downtown Minneapolis. And during the course of, the protests, during the course of the riots, not the protests, I was worried for them. So I opened up an invitation to the entire team. So I have about 16 people that report to me. I opened up the invitation to them to come out to my house. I live out in Albertville. As they come out to my house, if you're feeling that you are unsafe in that location and you have nowhere else to go, come on out to my house. We'll make sure that we're socially distanced. We'll make sure that you're comfortable, and at whatever time you feel comfortable, we can go back to where you are. It was an open invitation, still is an open invitation. But, that's part of that, I guess, collaboration and understanding where people are. And the uniqueness of the team is understanding how people will approach a problem. Now, it could be from a tactical perspective, it could be strategically, it could be, they could be, they can postpone it till the very last minute. Whatever the case, we have to be adaptive as leaders and understand where they're coming from and be in a position to encourage them to be successful. So when I think about then why culture, those are kind of the tenets that build the culture that I try to foster. It's where trust and respect is earned, empowering staff to be independent, not only in their thinking, but also in how they approach their work. Have a community within which collaboration, understanding, and identifying the uniqueness of individuals on the team is important. And then lastly, as a leader, understanding how we can move the team forward and put them in the best position to be successful. I think once we have that, and I feel like on a consistent basis, I've been able to provide that community where people feel that they feel included and has produced a diverse community for the information security group. So the next part of this conversation is simply, how can we then, now we have a culture where people feel included, they feel empowered, they have open channels of communication and collaboration, they understand what the mission and vision of the organization is. How can we leverage that power? How can we leverage that group to assure security? And to me, that's done, as I mentioned, with the human power, right? People are the first, last line of defense. They're going to see it first, and they're going to do it last. So regardless of all the technology controls that we have in place, if a human is as my previous boss had said, if a carbon-based life form has anything to do with what your technology is, it's susceptible for failure. So we need to leverage that power of that carbon-based life form to be in a position to better detect and respond. Another equation that comes to mind is E equals D plus R. So E is the exposure, the risk exposure. D is the detection time, and R is the response time. So as you can, you all are scholars and teachers, so you know that the detection and response time, the quicker we can do that, and the faster and better we can do that, the smaller our exposure time and rate will be. And that's what this is, right? So we need to leverage the user experience, leverage what people have done in the past, leverage what they have experienced in the past. One thing that we can count on, that in this work life, in this work from home environment, people are working and doing personal business. So they will see things that we may not have seen on the professional side. They may see it on the personal side. So we need to engage them as that liaison, if you will, to inform us if there's something happening on the personal side that isn't yet detected on the work side. They can inform us either through emails, through automated reporting, picking up the phone, having that trusted relationship with another person in the organization to report that. Again, minimizes our exposure rate. If we implement early detection tools, technology, we need to put in place alerting and reporting capabilities where the user, if it's not automated, the user can respond, the user can report on that quickly. So if we have an automated tool in place that reports on a policy failure, and it's not going to automatically block that policy or automatically reinforce that policy, if we're alerting a human capital or an employee to respond to that alert, we need to make sure that they understand how, what, and why they're doing it. So then the response time is critical, because we detect and we have to respond. If it's not through an automated fashion, it has to be through a means, as I mentioned, where employees are empowered to report, either through a phone call, collaborative connection, or through automated means. And then lastly, I think this kind of speaks for itself, is share and share alike. Sharing is caring, whatever phrase you want to use. This part is critical. And it also plays along with the detection and response. So that's what I had for us today. I will pause there, take any questions that may have come up during the course of the talk.
Great information, Jeff. Real interesting to hear what you, when the riots and things were happening, kind of that outreach that was so vital and so needed. And we've heard it a few times. So can you give a little bit more information about what did you find out? What did you kind of, what were some of the outcomes from the reach out that you did during those hectic times?
Yeah. So, can you still hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I was clicking around my screen and then everything went crazy. So, yeah. So the outreach, I put out the kind of the safe haven request there for folks. You know, I didn't have anyone take me up on the offer. However, I got a number of response back that they had 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 not had that experience before. They haven't had anyone, any leader open up their home before, and it wasn't anything that I had sat down and talked or thought about. It was purely a reactive um, kind of response, right? I knew I had people downtown that lived right on Hennepin. And I knew that, what was happening was beyond our wildest um, expectations or haven't been experienced and some of these folks are really young in their lifetime. And I wanted to make sure that they had a place to go if needed. So that was kind of the impetus behind that.
Great. Great. Pat or Christy, it looks like we had a few other folks on here, but do you have any comments? Yeah, Christy, I like the painting behind you. Who is it by, Jeff? Your painting behind you.
Oh, this one? It's by Michael Barrera. So my birthday was on September 5th, and my mom got that for me. And then these on either side are done by my son.
Wow. Wow. Chad's got a quick question here, Jeff. Could you share a story of a time when your team reacted to a threat effectively where you could see your culture themes really coming through, or what you were talking about really showcased it?
Yeah, yeah. So you can imagine that the Federal Reserve system and the Federal Reserve Bank it's got a target on its back, not only for its name, but also by proxy of being a financial institution. With that, we have a very high number of phishing emails that come into the organization all of the time. The most recent incident that we had to investigate was we got a report. So we have a cybersecurity awareness program where it's forward-leaning with our employees, make sure they know they have a contact on the information security side if anything comes up. And they also have a technology we use called report fish that if something looks weird, they can report the fish. But in this instance, the executive secretary for the president got an email that looked entirely suspicious. She picked up the phone and called a member of our team. He then spun up a war room, kind of a quick little a gathering of our operations folks to kind of take in, with her on the phone, take in the information that she was seeing, then quickly managed to outsource. Okay, he assigned one task to another person, assigned another task to another person. So it's just three of them in there. Knowing that ultimately we needed to identify what this email was, who was sending it, and what the proliferation of it was in the organization. They managed to do that work and do it within an hour. And we were able to not only pull back the email from the president, but also pull back emails from 6 other executives within the organization. We then reported that up to our national incident response team, where they can look more broadly across the organization, across the Federal Reserve System, to see if that was being proliferated across the system. So that kind of illustrated the collaborative, the understanding of what the mission and vision is for the information security team, allowing people to do their unique work and bring back results in a timely fashion, and then also empowering our end users to identify and report any suspicious activities to the incident response team. So there's a couple of things that we do at the bank. One is the cybersecurity awareness program, where we recognize folks that pass our phishing tests over the course of the year. So we have 6 tests over the course of the year, and those that report the phish and pass are recognized with a gift certificate, either from $25 all the way up to $100 for all 6 tests. And if you pass all 6, the grand prize is $600. And that's another way of incentivizing and empowering people to get additional training, to be more empowered to recognize that. But in this specific case, with this executive assistant, we have what we call the human firewall. So for individuals that actually identify an actual attack that was underway, we recognize them with an award and picture and a gift certificate. And this individual, being that we're through her early detection, we were able to put in security controls to minimize that attack. We recognized her with the Human Firewall Award.
Excellent. It's kind of an interesting topic, and seeing who kind of just stuck with this today. One of my concerns is trying to figure out how to get this message out of diversity and inclusion. You know, the Minnesota state system has it's called the 2023 or 2025, I can't remember, 2030. I need to even figure that out. Diversity and inclusion initiative, where we're working on some of these things with culture and such. But it's interesting to me that we don't have a lot of folks. I don't know if they don't understand the topic or understand the area or understand how they can even impact these things. But are there readings or other areas that you could maybe give us some ideas of where else should we be sending folks and helping them understand exactly what you're talking about fostering that culture?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Janice, and then just something that I may have to get back to you on. The experiences shared here, other than the statistics that I shared in terms of the working from home and the number of attacks that came from the cybersecurity hub, have been things that I've kind of gone through in the organization, right? So I've seen or I've experienced where collaboration wasn't a top priority. As I mentioned, I've been with the organization for 20 years. So each of those collaboration, understanding unique leadership style, empowering, are all things that I've had to struggle with as an independent individual contributor. So as I've moved through kind of the ranks into the leadership role, were things that I figured and felt that this cannot continue. If I were to lead a team, here are the things that I feel are most important in order to be successful. But I can certainly find, areas and some reading that I can share with you. But quite honestly, these are if you will, war wounds from my experience as an individual contributor, and what I kind of set out to not repeat as a leader.
Yeah. Yeah, I just see a need for more small training, small understanding groups of what we're trying to do here and why it's so important.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, the eyes are open for many in the past few months, but with a number of things that happened, from the COVID to the protests to the riots to you name it. So it's a perfect kind of storm for us to really start moving this forward. So your voice is needed and your voice is appreciated. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. Christy or Chad, are there any other comments that you'd like to make on this? Otherwise, I think we'll call it a wrap and just say thank you. Very important information to share. We'll make sure this recording gets to our faculty teams, to our student teams, as well as posted for industry and others to hear about.
It's a pleasure. Thanks again for the opportunity to share my idea.
Yeah, and we look forward to future endeavors with you, Jeff. So thank you again. Thanks, Christy and Chad, for tuning in as well. So we will talk with everybody later.
All right. Have a good day.